reality for a moment. I was thinking about something. Getting into a point of talking about being somebody. You know, in your universe, in the universe that you're in, it's of your creation, because you are the creator of your universe. And you really are. In the beginning, you said, let there be light. And there was light. And, you know, the first day and night, that was the beginning of the first day. And the second day, you said, well, let there be some other stuff. And there was that. And then there was other things. A whole bunch of things. You said, you know, you just created your own universe. See, in the beginning, it started with your consciousness. When you became conscious of things, that's when time and space came into existence, because they exist in your consciousness. We talk about time and space coming into existence at the beginning of the Big Bang. But it actually came into existence at the beginning of your consciousness. That's reality. Time and space came into existence at the beginning of your consciousness. When you became aware, that's when time and space started. That's when everything was born. That's when things became, you know, when the clock got started. That's when all the drama began. The drama of existence. You know, I think the one thing the Bible is correct about, you could doubt everything else, but one thing that you can't doubt is at the beginning, that's when drama began. The drama of existence. And I think that really the Bible is a metaphor. It's not to be taken literal at all. It's meant to be simply the story of your consciousness. The stories simply represent things in your consciousness. That there is an Adam and Eve story that we all have in some form or another. First, we started off very innocent. We didn't know right from wrong. When we were kids, when you were little kids, there was no such thing as right or wrong. But then you became aware of right and wrong. You were taught right from wrong. And that's when you became conscious of it. And so you had a choice. You could choose to do things that were right, or you can choose to do things that were wrong. And you always tried to stay on the path of being right, but there was always temptation to do things that were wrong. Now, this is funny because when I talk about this, I'm not really a religious person in the traditional sense. I am religious in a certain way, but not in a regular, strictly go to church, straight out of the Bible sense of it. And you know, that may be something that for 50 videos it would take me to explain that, although it doesn't really take that much. I think people who themselves are religious in the way I'm talking know it like that. But anyway, without going into all that stuff, I think the beginning started with your own consciousness. That's all the reality that there will ever be in my life. Reality began when I became conscious. Not when I was born, but when I became aware that I was. And then when I lose that awareness that I am, that is the end of the world. The world ends when my consciousness ends. Not even, you know, my body might still be alive. Maybe there's even some brain signals going on. Maybe brain neurons are still firing. But when I'm no longer conscious, that's the end of the world. The beginning of the world starts with the beginning of consciousness, and the end of the world ends with the end of consciousness. I'm not even going to explain that or qualify that, and I'm going to get all kind of stuff coming in, and that's okay. But my goodness, I think that's the reality of things. See, I think every story in the Bible has a truth because it really is a metaphor for all that. We all have moments of redemption, and we have moments of death and rebirth. All these things, they're symbolic. See, I read it just like I read any kind of literature. I read it the way I read Shakespeare. It's all symbolic. It has a lot of meaning to it. When I read a poem, I look at the meanings of it. What does this person mean? What are the eternal meanings? What is it that I can relate to in that person's consciousness? Like when I read the poems of Walt Whitman. You know, Walt Whitman wrote all the things he wrote in the 1800s. Like from, I think when he first published Leaves of Grass in 1855 until his final revision of it in 1891, I think it was. From that period of time, it's like I'm seeing the world from that perspective. But not just seeing it in the 1800s, looking at it from the 19th century, but looking at the world, really trying to connect with the eternal elements. When I read John Keats' poems, I try to connect with what's eternal. When I'm reading something from Plato or Aristotle, I try to connect with things that, you know, it has to make sense to you because there has to be some eternal things in the consciousness of others. You can compare it. You can see it. You can look for what's eternal. What is always true. It's just things to be thinking about. This might not make a lot of sense to people, and that's okay. Sometimes things don't make sense. Sometimes the best things are things, not things that make sense, but the things that we can look at and we can contemplate and we can form new ideals. See, really, real progress isn't so much new discoveries in the physical world, but new discoveries in our own mind, creativity, coming up with new ways of thinking. You know, I think about what Lincoln said, as our situation is anew, so should our thinking be anew. We have to think different. This is a crazy video, doesn't make sense. So on that level, I'll accept anything that comes in.